My name is Taika Waititi. Nice to meet you.
I swear to devote all my energies and my strength to the savior of our country, Adolf Hitler.
Seeing the world through kids' eyes and sort of seeing how kids are affected by the way adults operate around them. I think that's something Taika likes to tell stories about.
So I'm from New Zealand, I'm Māori. On my mother's side of the family, Russian Jews. Most of my prejudice has been experienced because I'm brown. But I think luckily coming from a world of comedy, you learn to subvert a lot of these things. When I originally wrote the script, I wanted it to be fun.
Die, devil, stop!
It's poking fun at these people, but also trying to explain how serious this stuff is.
That's Taika to a T, really, sort of seeing that there's humour in all parts of life, not just the happy parts, but there's humour in some of the darker parts of our life and our history.
Audiences need new and more inventive ways of telling these stories. And for me, the new ways of creating fantastical characters and really getting inside the head of a 10-year-old boy.
Someone tries to use mind powers on me. You know what I do? Use mind powers back on them.
The world needs ridiculous films because the world is ridiculous.
Beethoven,
Einstein,
Bach,
Gershwin,
Brahms, Wagner, Mozart.
musicians. Is that all you have?
The script is brilliant, and I don't say that lightly.
The thing that popped out to me immediately was that it was through a young Nazi boy's eyes, which is something that I haven't ever really seen before.
The writing is just so clever and so witty. It's just tiptoeing that line. That's what all art should be about, is just provoking different kind of emotions.
When people ask you what category would you make this film in, you wouldn't be able to say, which I think is great.
It's not every day that, believe it or not, that you get sent a comedy script that is funny and powerful.
Characters in the story are all multifaceted. They're neither black or white. They're flawed and then also very much celebrated and do unexpected things, both good and bad. There's just a lot of humanity in his writing.
How do you know you can trust someone?
You trust them.
My mother and I were talking and she was reading a book, which was Caging Skies, and she was describing it to me, and I really fell in love with those elements about this boy who finds this girl in the attic, and he was a part of the Hitler Youth, and then it was this whole kind of complex thing where they couldn't tell the mother, and basically for me what seemed like a really cool film. The book is a lot more dramatic and there aren't those comedy elements in it, and so I felt like if I was going to tackle this subject and to make the story, I had to really put in elements of my own personality and my own style into this film, and that would be adding some fantastical things and obviously comedy and trying to, dance a bit between this dramatic and comedic tone.
Imagine catching one and giving it to Hitler. We would become best friends.
I thought I was your best friend.
You're my second best friend.
I'm always interested in stories about childhood and youth and sort of coming of age. I always think that's an interesting and rich area. We've all been through it, obviously. Although it does have a boy who has Hitler as an imaginary best friend, it's actually quite a sweet story about someone learning to think for themselves.
Oh, no thanks, I don't smoke.
That kind of age-old idea of nature versus nurture, and are these things that are within him actually within him, or is it the world around him and the situations that's happening, his family sort of being torn from this direction, that direction, and what decisions he makes due to that.
With independent films, you want to be surprised by the things that you see, and this story could be directed or told by someone in a very traditional way, but what's unique about it is taking those different takes on the characters and making sure that you're taken somewhere you weren't expecting.
You've lived more lifetimes than most.
I haven't lived it all.
We don't shy away from the pathos parts of the story, but I've always believed about comedy is that is the best way to trick people into coming down this alleyway and then smashing them over the head with something that actually means something and something that has some weight.
Obviously there's dark moments to it, but it's quite sweet. A lot of tender moments in there as well, which I think is really, really beautiful.
Taika's done a great job in managing to take something that on the surface seems so bleak and kind of inject it with humour and pathos and emotion and heart.
Heil Hitler.
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 It has the satirical edge in the vein of something perhaps like Dr. Strangelove or those other great black comedies that take heavy subject matter and make them funny.
It's just interesting and can be quite dark sometimes, but black comedy, that's what it's supposed to be, right?
Hello, is that the Gestapo? I believe there's a communist hiding behind my fridge. We go around to investigate, it's just some mold.
It's an odd tone that we're trying to do. We're on that tightrope, you know, and it could get tricky. People might get confused.
The tone of the movie is going to ruffle some feathers, I'm sure. I think some people are going to find some of the areas that the movie explores difficult, and perhaps are going to be uncomfortable about whether or not they can laugh.
I'm not sure about the hips on the pants. Should they be bigger?
You look great.
Yeah, people will be laughing and then they'll be like, you know, they'll be a little uncomfortable. And there's a reason for all of it. And it leads to a purpose that I think teaches us something about humanity. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful film.
It's very easy to get caught up in this idea that, oh, you're entertaining people with laughs and with these ridiculous moments. And I just had to make sure that I wasn't letting that get the better of the story and water down what was the main message, which is we need to be more tolerant and spread more love and less hate.
Field Marshal Jojo, you're our top man. Prepare to leave the house.
Is it dangerous?
Extremely.
We're really lucky to have an amazing group of super talented people. We've got Scarlett Johansson, who, is it Johansson or Johansson? I don't know. I don't even know if she knows. She is a great up-and-coming actor that no one's ever heard of. She was a mechanic before landing this role of a lifetime. Here's one thing you don't know about her. She can change a car tire in under 25 seconds.
What a great part that is. She's the mom that everybody wants to have.
My darling little cub.
She was really funny, which I wasn't expecting. She was funny and witty and smart, and obviously a really beautiful actress.
I think the relationship between Rosie and Jojo is just very loving and tender. I found it to be very real and very sweet.
He loves his mom. He can't stop loving his mom.
Shitla, let's get the move on.
What the Hey!
What's wrong with you? I'm worried about you, man. Are you drunk? Again?
They have a really good connection. It's like too perfect for once.
I think Scarlett was really good at developing that relationship with Roman. I asked her what was she thinking about when she was with him. Was she thinking about her own child? And she just said that she found him like a little peanut. And so that's what she called him, her little peanut. I think he just responded to that. And that connection was there from day one.
Each time I did a scene with Scarlett, I felt really good because it wasn't as heavy and it was really fun.
You're such a diva. Ooh, sassy. Okay, this is serious. This is very serious business.
Even though she's sort of a dreamer and a comedian, she's also very pragmatic. I find very much a part of being a parent is that you balance constantly between the responsible side, the adult, and then also the person who creates a magical world for your kids. I really like the scene that Taika actually wrote later. It's a scene where my character is really frustrated with being a single parent, being alone, and the challenges that she's being presented with. Jojo's just being a petulant child, and she gets so angry with him that she scolds him in the manner of his father, and then proceeds to have a two-sided conversation as both herself and her husband.
Jojo, I know you miss me, but I'm out there trying to make a difference in the world. And while I'm gone, I need you to take care of my Rosie.
It's just a very sad and poignant and charming scene all at once. I think that's what Taika does really well in his writing.
Rosie's the extrovert. She's the fighter. She represents hope, life. She expressed all those feelings through her colors, the way she dresses. She doesn't want to hide.
I look stupid. People will stare.
Enjoy the attention, kid. Not everyone's lucky enough to look stupid.
I like mother characters that aren't just the mother in a film, and that they're the mother and the father. And so growing up with a solo mother, she fulfilled both roles for me. Seeing someone in the middle of a time that's so dangerous and crazy, and that there's a character who's strong enough to just want the best for her son and to try somehow to keep a hold of this innocence in him, I think makes her really the strongest character in the film.
My name is Captain Klenzendorf. You may call me Captain K. Captain K! Woo!
Another great up-and-coming young talent. I only work with young people and non-actors.
That's funny.
Sam's been great. He's so enthusiastic and so committed. From the moment he came on, he wanted to get his German accent going. He arrived in Prague, he got off the plane, he wanted to start rehearsing. He's just been such a joy to work with.
You know, just bring Sam in, and he was wide-eyed, and he was just like, oh God, oh well, what's this thing? I'm like, oh well, that's a camera. Well, what's this over here? Well, that's a light.
I'm very, very fortunate to have pretty much, I think, every single one of my scenes with Sam Rockwell. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of him. He's such a brilliant actor and a character actor. He's just so good at what he does.
It was just kind of cool just holding his hand and just walking him through the whole process and guiding him through this whole filmmaking thing. You know, it can be a little intimidating when you first go around.
Sam was great fun. He was always in character, but he'd be so nice at the same time.
I love Sam. I love his work. He's so surprising and very sensitive. I love the sort of off-the-cuff, nonchalant style of the way that he works. Although it's not, it's very measured, but it's a quality that he possesses that just makes him incredibly enigmatic.
As part of our preparations for the invasion, I'm redesigning my uniform. Note the feathers for aerodynamics, the sparkly color to dazzle the enemy, the boots purely decorative.
I really love roles that have a juxtaposition, a real dichotomy. Gay Nazi is an oxymoron. You don't really hear that phrase very often, so it's really fascinating. I love characters like that.
I'm sorry for yelling at you. I feel so stupid. No, it's a silly name for a dog. I should have been more clear. You're doing a great job. Okay.
And because it's at the end of the war and the Germans know that they're losing, he's very disillusioned and given up hope that they're going to come out of this thing alive.
You've got Americans to the west, got Russians to the east.
And then with comedy, you have to play it real. It's uncomfortable, some of this stuff, but it's funny and it's weird.
One of the things for Taika is that even though it's set in the past, to have a contemporary feel, so we've wanted to maintain the character of the actors.
They definitely don't speak like they would have spoken back then, and I think that was important because it needs to be a story that young people will see and get really fast.
Tickle your ass with a feather. It's particularly nice feather. Yeah, this is a little mouth warm-up, you know, a little German warm-up, yeah.
It's almost like having a second job, doing an accent, a dialect. So in a way, I compartmentalize the two, and so eventually you marry Sam and the impression.
Each of you will be given the opportunity to ignite and throw a grenade. I will personally be supervising each of you to make sure you don't blow your eyes out.
Heil Hitler. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Captain Hermann Dietz of the Falkenhayn Gestapo.
When I first read the script, like any actor, you immediately turn to the scenes you're in and count how many words you have to see if it's actually worth you bothering taking the job. And there was only really one significant scene that I was in, but I seemed to have the lion's share of the words. So I agreed to do it and generously flew to Prague for very little money.
Action.
Isn't that right, little Frankenstein?
No, there is no need to mock his hideous physical deformity. We can all see it. We are all laughing about it behind his back.
Isn't that right, little Frankenstein?
No. There is no need to attack this poor boy's hideous physical deformity. He disgusts all of us, you, I'm sure, included. Well, the thing is, everyone's speaking with a German accent, and accents are not something which I've really done before or feel terribly comfortable doing. So initially, I worked quite religiously with a voice coach to try and master this German accent and learn the lines as they were scripted. And once I showed up, Taika was very keen for me to change the lines or play around or improvise, and that panicked me slightly because suddenly I had to try and improvise with a German accent. But once I sort of realized that I wasn't being judged and that he was creating a kind of safe environment where you can goof around and not be penalized if you don't hit it out of the park every time, that freed me up a lot more.
Mattresses. Good. They are needed to sleep in and for the rumpy pumpy.
Life isn't scripted. I wake up every day and I don't know what I'm going to say. I just sort of continue that at work.
My God, his custard tarts are just the most absolute delissimo thing I've ever tasted. Good God, his custard tarts, that's the only thing keeping morale up at the front. My God, the custard tarts he makes are to die for. That's why everyone at the front is dying, for them.
Improvising, not everyone can do it. Usually I generally try to keep everything quite close to the script unless it's myself. I allow myself the luxury of making shit up.
Don't make me run, kids!
Now, it's time for Jojo to show those stick insects who is the real cowardly rabbit.
It was very hard to make a young white kid who's in the Hitler Youth likable. How do we come into this film and actually want to be invested in his journey and care about him? I think one of the ways of doing that was to obviously show that he wasn't popular and he was kind of weak and a bit insignificant in the whole scheme of things. And because Roman is a really endearing, beautiful kid who, when you hang out with him, you want to protect him and you love him, and he's really charming and he's funny and he has a very, very sweet nature. And I think because of that, that does carry through into the character. There's a lot of him in that character. And so already I think casting the right kid was a big deal for us, finding someone that the audience inherently just fell in love with because he's a sweetheart.
Roman definitely had a sparkle in his eye and you wanted to watch him, but then you have to see him do a few different scenes to sort of really know, has he got the range? You want to see, can he get into the anger, can he get into the humor, can he get into the emotion of the character as well? And he had all those things that we were looking for. We had a half-hour audition with him and he did not take his eyes off Taika, and that was incredibly impressive for a 10-year-old kid.
You're in love with her, aren't you?
Yes.
Admit it!
I just said yes!
You're in love with her, aren't you?
Yes.
Admit it!
I just said yes.
I knew it!
So we could see that he had an intensity about him and an ability to concentrate in the way that was going to be needed of him, and an intelligence. He was really tuned into what that character was wanting in those various scenes that we were looking at, as well as sort of think about what he was going to do. He was able to actually feel it too.
Well, I've gotten a lot more confident. I've really changed because of this movie.
Roman's grown that much during the course of production. Any more than that, and I would have fired him. But he's been fantastic. Roman has certainly grown as an actor. He's become one of the best actors in the whole thing. I think that was actually from being around really good actors like Scarlett and Sam and Rebel and Alfie and obviously me.
Scheiße.
Scheiße.
He's become this really amazing actor who can just turn on the tears when he wants. He asks all the right questions when it comes to the scenes, what his motivation is and how emotional he should be.
Roman is one of the sweetest young boys I've ever met in my life. He's an absolute delight. He's charming and he's funny and he's clever.
I love Roman. I've been incredibly impressed by not only his acting skills, but also he's incredibly patient and passionate and dedicated to what he's doing. He's not taking any of it for granted.
All right, here we go.
Break free. Break free, great Aryan. There are no weak Jews.
What I didn't want to do with Elsa is to create a character that I feel like we've seen before, which is someone who feels a little weaker than the captor.
Tell me everything about the Jewish race.
Okay. We're like you, but human.
I like the idea that there's a dynamic there where she kind of has a lot of the cards and she gets to call the shots a lot. Maybe because she's bigger and smarter and stronger than him, but also they are in a bit of a catch-22 where no one can tell anyone and there are real stakes if the secret does get out.
Elsa is a very different character, unlike any character I've ever played, so I've really liked being kind of mean. I remember you. Such a funny little boy.
One of my goals in creating the character was to make her feel like one of the cool kids at school, and she was forced to live in an attic in someone's house. And that there's a sort of a bitterness in her and resentment that she's had to give up this quite cool life when she was young and popular.
She doesn't want the pity, she just wants to be able to live her life.
She blames this kid and everyone else, and it's not just as simple as hiding and trying to find food. I just wanted to make sure that there was a friendship there, and that the biggest thing for him was just learning that there's no real difference between people. We're all just trying to survive, and that she's a good person, and that he could be a good person. With Thomason, I already knew about her because she'd been in a couple of films, but also I knew her from New Zealand and knew that she could do it.
What's the first thing you'll do when you're free?
dance.
So, how's it all going with that Jew thing upstairs?
Well, she doesn't want to talk to me.
Well, you are a Nazi.
At first I thought maybe I'll do some research, and then I thought, well, hang on a minute, we don't owe him any authenticity, and I don't want to really have to play that guy and give him the satisfaction of having someone try to be him. And basically playing a kind of stupider version of myself, if that's possible, with a Hitler moustache and a Hitler haircut and Hitler clothes on.
Shh, shh, shh. You shush me. Let's get a book and let's go. Libraries are dumb.
I'm pretty sure I knew that he was playing Hitler from the beginning. And obviously I was really curious because he's definitely not Hitler.
In person, he's super positive and everything, but when he goes into Hitler, he got really into character. So when he'd answer people, he would answer as if he was Hitler.
I do remember when we were doing some makeup tests, it was actually a bit shocking walking into the makeup room and seeing him with that moustache and his hair pulled back. And every now and again with this project, we bump into the seriousness. The way we're making it is a very sort of light touch, even though there's a stronger message in there.
In all seriousness, I think Hitler actually, certainly during and after the war, was often routinely mocked, because I think it was a way of people dealing with the horror of what they'd experienced. There's something laughable about this worship of this little man with his little moustache who looks like an angry accountant. And I think that's one of the things which Taika is playing with in this, is how people can be swept along by ideologies, and particularly the way that children and young people can be, easily persuaded.
Oh, the war will end. We will crush our enemies into dust. And when they are destroyed, we shall use their graves as toilets.
Okay, no more politics.
2011 I finished the first draft, and in that time I went and made 3 other films. When it came time to start making this, there was this new resurgence of this way of thinking in the world today, and it suddenly became more appropriate to tell the story now, because it is an anti-hate film and it's pro-peace, and it does poke fun at these ideologies and these regimes who promote hate, and they are fueled on this idea of creating paranoia among the masses.
Did you see one? A Jew?
I'm not sure I'd be able to tell if I did.
One of the things which people with authoritarian tendencies hate is humor. It's very hard to take someone seriously when you're laughing at them.
Putting on that little moustache and the outfit and having my hair all horrible like that, something actually happens and something takes over me and I become an asshole. Maybe that was part of the anger, was that he realized how stupid he looked. He wasn't very Aryan looking, and I think he was just eternally angry and frustrated with himself.
Hi there! Welcome to the set of Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit.
Yay.
Taika's really brilliant. He's touched a little,
The hottest comedy director out there right now.
Doesn't seem to really care how old you are. He's got a similar relationship with anyone of any age, gender, whatever.
Taika's amazing with actors. He makes it fun. It's a live experience. He wants to include them in the process.
Us Nazis, we don't want to be smart. We want to look smart. Christoph, take a photo. Look how smart I look. Yeah. Oh, look. Modeling in Germany. I love it.
The script is the base that he works from, but he's really collaborative.
Are you kidding? I'm a Deutschopath. I'm a Germaniac, is what I am. I'm a Germaniac.
I find it adds a whole other quality to the actor-director relationship when it's an actor that's directing you. Taika is really able to sit in moments, even if they're uncomfortable. We both, I think, exist in the same space.
He really cheers me up. Like, I'm just like... And then by the time he talks to me, I'm like...
I'm a bit of a mentor to all these actors. They all look up to me, turn up on set, they're just like, oh man, God, here's Taika Waititi. God, he's made 5 films. Oh my God, how could anyone find the time to make 5 films in 42 years?
On the phone, he called me and offered me the part and was cooking dinner. And just immediately, I just thought me and this bloke are going to get along. The amount of people who I'd heard from saying that, I really felt like he got the best out of me as an actor, and I never felt more comfortable in a director's hands. It's just music to any actor's ears.
Why you look so sad? It is fine, your first kill. Yes, Now drag him away, he does not deserve to be here.
He's from New Zealand, I'm from Australia. We're kind of similar culturally, and working with him is kind of exactly how I thought it would be. He's such a kind-spirited guy and so talented and creative, both visually and with comedy.
Take this gun, you're promoted to a killing machine. Go now! Go!
I've just had such a great time here on the film.
I trust him implicitly. He has such an incredible eye. He's an incredible artist himself. And so collaborating with him brings out the best in me.
I think that's just Taika though. That's his style, that he is everyone's best friend. He is the person that everyone wants to hang around. He knows everybody on set and respects them and tries to win them over. It kind of makes sense that actors, PAs, art department, set decorators just gravitate towards him because he wants to create that environment where everyone's working together.
Filmmaking is a true collaboration, and you have to respect each other and support each other.
We didn't want it to be muted and depressing right from the beginning. I feel like there's a very traditional way of going into these World War II films. Everyone dresses in brown and grey, and it just feels sad. If you look at the actual fashions of the time, there's like a lot of colour.
We had a unique opportunity here to do something a little bit different with a World War II film. To experience it through the eyes of a young boy meant that our creative palette was quite a lot broader.
The approach is very vivid. You're gonna find the colors and tone of the costumes. They're not grim at all. They're not drabby at all.
I was doing some research and heard that because towards the end of the war, a lot of people thought that today was going to be their last day to live. A lot of the time they just wore their very best clothes and put on all their makeup, and they just wanted to look good. If they were going to die, they wanted to look good doing it. I wanted as much as possible to have it be authentic to the period, whether it be elements of the city or vehicles or the costume and things like that.
The very first seed of inspiration, I guess, was built around the fact that, hey, look, maybe we don't have $1 million to build some incredible Jojo Rabbit town. So that sort of started the evolution of the design.
Originally I wanted to shoot in New Zealand, but it just made way more sense to be in Europe because you can't fake the exteriors and locations that are available here. And the towns that we've been shooting in Czech Republic have at some point been part of Germany.
Coming from a very constrained but practical starting point, this meant that anything extra was just wonderful icing on the cake. And what we've managed to do by coming all the way over here is to add 1,000% production value.
Jojo Betzler, 10.5 years old. Today, just do what you can.
I think that fans of my work will be, I think they'll be satisfied and they'll really enjoy the film. They might be a little surprised as to just how dark some of the moments in the film can get, but you can't shy away from that, and I don't think you can tell a story set in the war that brushes over any of that stuff.
This stuff really happened. That's the thing, and you might be like, ah ha ha, you know, that's so crazy, but this stuff really happened.
The main message is that our behavior is being seen by children, and the reason that they say humanity is doomed to repeat their mistakes is because children are watching us, they're learning from us, and they're copying us.
It's very real. There was over 6 million kids in the Hitler Youth. So all of those kids were just indoctrined into this way of thinking that just was horrendous.
There is no room in Hitler's army for those that lack strength. We want hardened warriors, those that are prepared to kill at will.
And so Jojo's story isn't actually that crazy.
It's such a beautiful story that really celebrates humanity in a very unexpected kind of way.
Thank you, Jojo. You've been so good to me.
I hope people like it as much as I do.
What Rosie says to Elsa in the attic in the first scene, you have to keep living, you have to keep going, you know, otherwise they'll win. What it really means is otherwise hate will win. And it's a message for everyone, despite what happens, what life throws at you, just keep going.
What do we do now?